So thank you for inviting me. I spent a large part of my career in Catholic universities, both as a student and as a teacher, so I always feel home in these institutions. In 2017, President Xi insisted on two priorities of Chinese religious policy: Sinicization and the fight against Xie Jiao. As Gordon already mentioned, it's very important to understand the meaning of these two terms, which are very technical in Chinese law. Sinicization is a word already used by Chiang Kai-shek in Republican China, but it is used in a different meaning by the Chinese Communist Party. For Chiang Kai-shek, Sinicized organization were organization with Chinese leaders. So the message to the churches should not be led by foreign missionaries. You should have Chinese leaders. Now, for the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, this is not enough. You can have Chinese leaders, Catholic underground church can have Chinese bishops, new religious movements may have been founded and being led by Chinese. That's not enough. Sinicization in contemporary Chinese law means your leaders should be selected and appointed by authorities and the CCP, and your general organization should work within the framework of the objectives of the CCP. Gordon already talked about Xie Jiao. The translation as cults is wrong, even if it's used in Chinese official sources. The most literal translation will be heterodox teachings. And well before controversies about cults erupted in the West, in the 18th century, China already had the first laws proscribing the Xie Jiao and creating lists of the Xie Jiao. And it was the emperor's ultimate authority that decided which group was and which group was not a Xie Jiao. Now, the emperors, some of them, as some historians of China remind us, had the theological or religious education, did take into account theology, but surely the judgment of including or not including groups in the list of Xie Jiao was largely political. One example, Christianity in general in 1725 went into the list of Xie Jiao, and the Christians were arrested as such, just for being a Christian, tortured, executed. But in 1842, when Western warships started to appear along the coasts of China because of the diplomatic, economic, and military pressure of the West, Christianity went out of the list of Xie Jiao. So it is important to consider that the CCP regime did not invent the notion of Xie Jiao. It's inherited by the empire and the republic. In the end, the answer to the very important legal question, what group is a Xie Jiao, is are Xie Jiao the groups listed as Xie Jiao by the government? The police and the courts just consult the list. They don't make theological investigation. Once you are in the list, you are in the list. So merging these two concepts of Sinicization and Xie Jiao, we have three different groups of religion in China. We have the fully Sinicized religion. These are the 5 religions whose leaders are appointed by the CCP. Then we have at the other extreme, look at the bottom, the Xie Jiao. One of the leaders of the CCP says the aim of the government is to eradicate this group like tumors, and being a member of a Xie Jiao is actually a crime. There is an article of the Criminal Code, Article 300, which says that using a Xie Jiao is punished with a penalty from 3 to 7 years or more in jail. And the case law, which is actually published in Chinese legal websites by the government, clarifies using a Xie Jiao means being active in a Xie Jiao. And it's a very broad concept of being active. Some people have sentenced to long jail penalties just because they had some books in their home published by a Xie Jiao. In the middle, there is what a leading scholar of religion in China, Feng Yang, has called the gray market of religion in China. So all the groups which are not part of the 5 Sinicized religions, but are not listed as Xie Jiao. And here you find many Protestant house churches, although some house churches are in the Xie Jiao list. The group has been heavily persecuted in China. As a result of the persecution, a number of members escaped abroad, particularly after 2014, and created churches abroad. Here you see South Korea, but the United States, Europe, Canada, Australia, Hong Kong, and Taiwan, there are churches of the Almighty God. There were 2 unintended consequences of this diaspora. The presence of brothers and sisters of the Almighty God in the West led to the conversion of Westerners. In some countries, Western converts are as many as 40%. And the second one is the revelations of Almighty God talk a lot about beauty and the arts, but of course in China they couldn't develop the arts because they were heavily persecuted, but they were able to once they escaped abroad. So it developed a really remarkable artistic productions, particularly with movies. And in some evangelical movie festivals, their movies were given awards because of the quality of the movies. As I said, CAG has been heavily persecuted in China, and there is some evidence now being collected in view of the fact that China this fall, European fall, not Australian fall, will pass the 5-year Universal Periodic Review of Human Rights at the United Nations. And so several NGOs have collected evidence of torture against members of the CAG and of some 30 people who died in jail in highly suspicious circumstances. Because based on what I've said, it's of course very clear that these people are persecuted in China, that being a member of CAG, it's a cause for persecution, and so they do deserve to receive refugee status in the countries where they ask for it. Thank you.